boy. So, in the days since the election special, some things have certainly gotten interesting and or horrifying. Are we talking about Antifa targeting Tucker Carlson? Are we talking about Broward County still being corrupt as hell? Among other things. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hat Man.
And welcome back to Micah and the Hat Man on Politics Live. All right. I am happy to be back. Believe it or not...
I'm not happy because I don't have a suit.
Yes.
Mine's in the wash.
Hatman is nowhere... Well, Hatman's never as stylish as I am.
Well, yeah.
but especially today.
Considering that's my backup suit.
Yeah, I've still got your primary. Yeah. So hopefully I'll get that shipped over to you soon. But
well, no rush. Mostly just a rush to get it out of the cleaners. But
yeah, anyway. I've just been strapped for cash lately between paying artists and all this other bullshit. So
that's no worries. That's why I keep a backup.
Yep, but
it's just I don't have a backup of the backup. Not yet.
I just need to start telling you whenever I see a sale on Joseph A. Bank.
You might have to do that.
Yeah, because like these suits are so nice. I am sick as a dog, and I'm still super comfortable in it. Like that's crazy to me. So for those who don't know, I was struck with a stomach bug. I spent yesterday trying to keep my my organs from coming out my rear orifice. Like, it was not fun. And today my blood pressure's all out of whack, so I'm drinking wine way earlier than I should. Well, it's 5 o'clock, so I guess I'm alright. So, I'm a little worn down. I dropped 9 pounds of water weight. So when I weighed in earlier today, I was at 331 pounds. So, oddly enough, though, it is the lowest I have weighed in 4 years. So, I'm feeling okay, all things considered. You know, I'm just kind of hoping to, you know, keep myself up and upright today, and I'll probably turn in right after we're done. But we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today between both podcasts. We also got a lot of you know, terrible things to talk about too. Starting off with Antifa targeting the home of one Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker has been a controversial guy in right-wing media for a long time, all the way back to Crossfire on CNN, which oddly enough, when I was younger, in my college days, was like the one political show I actually enjoyed watching because it was a debate. It was a constant debate between a liberal and a conservative, and it really, you know, at the time I didn't have a political side. If anything, I leaned left when I was younger, which is true of a lot of people. And it was interesting to see these debates go on, especially, you know, this was during the Iraq War and things like that. And even though I considered myself more to the left than the right at the time, I did support the war. My opinions largely have not changed on that. In regards to mission, just execution, my opinions have changed. Talking to veterans and things like that to get more of a better picture of what happened over there. Needless to say, though, Tucker was the target of Antifa. They attempted to break into his home and while protesting, as some people are trying to spin it.
They cracked an oak door.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, his children were not home. His wife was, though. She locked herself in their pantry and called the police, scared out of her mind. And I swear to God, the worst take I've ever seen came from Maddie Iglesias from Vox, one of the co-founders of Vox.
Yeah.
Basically excusing this. What happens if that door gets broken down? Is my question to people like that.
Who cares? They're a fascist. Who cares?
Supposedly. These people don't know what fascism is.
They don't, but they still believe in the direct action regardless, which means that if a fascist gets their door broken down, oh fucking well, that's on them. They deserve it because they're a horrible fascist. If a fascist gets their nose broken, oh well, it's their fault. If a fascist just happens to be gunned down in the fucking street, well, that's just too bad. Maybe they shouldn't have been so fashy.
Well, fuck all of that.
Yeah.
Because here's the fact of the matter. I have never heard Tucker Carlson put out anything that would come close to fascism at all.
Absolutely not.
You know, and I've been listening to his program off and on for the last year or two. You know, on top of that, if we lived in a fascist nation right now, Matty Iglesias would be dead. As would every single left-wing journalist. They would all be lined up in the streets and shot.
Or imprisoned.
We would have had the Night of Long Knives already. We have not. We'll be talking about Jim Acosta later. Jim Acosta would be dead. A lot of these people would be dead if we lived in a fascist state. So don't come here and tell me, and this is my message to any lefty out there who agrees with that sentiment, do not come here and tell me that we live in a fascist state. You have never experienced fascism. You have no knowledge of fascism. If you live here in the United States, you are richer than the rest of the world. And we have become so rich and so stupid that we think that a guy like Tucker Carlson, for saying that immigration law should be enforced, is a fascist. Fuck you.
Well, they talked about the victims of Tucker Carlson, too. Like, who the hell is he victimized? Like, are they honestly equating, like, the lefties that he dunks on his show with victims? What the fuck is this shit?
They don't even know what the word victim means anymore.
Well, no. Victim is anyone who is considered marginalized, basically.
Yeah. Well, who are the victims in America is something I constantly wonder. Which one of us is really a victim? Outside of maybe one or two occurrences in our lives where someone goes out of their way to screw your day up or your world up. But even then, victim is not a status that you are constantly going to have. Mm-hmm. Victim is a temporary thing. If you say to yourself, I will not remain a victim, I will become something greater than what I was the day before.
I mean, it's all for political purposes. They're exploited up until the very point in which they have power, in which case they are historically exploited, and then they still need to retain that power because you wronged me for so many millennia before this. I mean, that's why we always end up going back to, well, hundreds of years of slavery or thousands of years of patriarchal society, bullshit like that. Because even when you finally solve the power dynamics, they still try to play it off like there's an imbalance of power. It's not about finding equality for these people. It's about finding equity, tipping the scales rather than balancing them out.
Yeah. Well, Rex Warden's kind of giving me shit in the chat. Love you, Rex. I'm glad to see you back, by the way. But that's not quite what I mean, is all of us have had bad shit happen to us. But it is whether or not we will dwell upon those things, or we're going to continue to move forward in our lives, that really show part of our character. You know, Hatman and I have our own, what's the word I would be looking for? Our own limp, our own crippling experience as well. But it's whether or not we're willing to stand forward and or at least help other people to show the strength of our character that really defines us. Rex, I would even say that you're somebody who has shown the strength of his character. When I was down and out, and I was about to lose my apartment, you gave me $100 to help me pay my rent. And I am indebted to you for that. That's a strong character move. You helped somebody out when he needed it. That's a good man. So cheers to you, my friend. But that is what defines character, in my opinion. Is how we, not how we react to certain things. But here's the thing. I want to get on a different point. Is when we see things like this, I ask myself, why has Antifa not been declared across the United States to be a terrorist organization? I'm genuinely curious about that.
I think it comes mostly from a misunderstanding of what Antifa is. And it's similar to how people have defined feminist as just someone who wants equality between the sexes. You know, if you want that, then you're a feminist. Well, no. If you want that, then you just have common sense in modern society. Like, that's pretty much a no-brainer. I mean, are you going to call yourself a slavery abolitionist because you believe that people should not be enslaved? No, there's no point in that label anymore. But they've sort of used that same tactic to say, well, if you're against fascism, then you're Antifa. Because all it means is anti-fascist. No, it means anti-fascist action, as in direct action, as in you have to get violent. You have to engage who you describe as fascists.
Yes.
And specifically, you have to engage fascism in order to overthrow the state, in order to implement a socialist utopia, because that's the only way to cure fascism, because fascism is established by states and by capitalism and all that fucking nonsense.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. But it absolutely needs to be declared a terrorist organization. I mean, just like I said, their ultimate goal is to overthrow the state. How is that not terrorism?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what really gets me. I mean, they look at somebody like Tucker Carlson as the state media because he happens to agree with whoever's been elected in power at the moment. Well, if that's the case, then was Don Lemon state media 3 years ago? They'll never answer that question. They'll just punch you. But that's the way things are. In the press, there are going to be people who agree with you and those who disagree with you. You know, and that's perfectly fine. I have no issue with that. I don't expect everyone to agree with me or to have the same perspective. Many of them are wrong and we're right, but we're not called the wrong wing. But in all seriousness, though, the thing about this is that there is I genuinely wonder why it hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping that since, you know, we're obviously not going to get much law passed in the next 2 years, that Trump will start focusing on this and see this sort of thing, because he's known Tucker Carlson for years, and say something needs to happen here. But then again, that's Trump's job. He is the head of law enforcement. So I don't think he'll ever watch this, but Mr. President, please, for the sake of the safety of your citizens, you need to declare this group a terrorist organization, and moves need to be made to bring them down. Because at the end of the day, like Hatman said, their goal is an overthrowing of the greatest nation on earth. They are a direct threat to democracy. No, sorry, wrong word. To the republic.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are. We are a republic. And we are the greatest that's ever existed. And we will continue to be such. So.
Hopefully, now that we're getting a new attorney general, some shit will get done.
He seems to be even stricter than Sessions was. Sessions was a pretty strict guy. I just think that we'll talk. That wasn't one of our subjects, but I'll mention that real quick. I'm sad to see Jeff go. Honestly, I like Jeff Sessions quite a bit. He's a very principled man. I just think his targets were wrong at the end of the day. I think that he should have been a lot more focused on things that were going on inside the government itself than really like drugs, which really aren't our top priority right now. Outside of the opioid epidemic, which Trump already declared a mass emergency, but his immigration focus was spot on. He basically let ICE do whatever they needed to do, which was a very smart move on Sessions' part. But he's saying that he's apparently going to run for his old seat again in Alabama. Absolutely, I would love to have Jeff Sessions back in the Senate, because that is a very principled guy who, oddly enough, compared to a lot of lefties out there, did a lot more for civil rights than they ever will. That's a man who broke the back of the KKK in Alabama. Sadly, we don't have enough time to talk about that, but look that up sometime. Jeff Sessions was a beast when it came to the courts, and he was a hell of a senator. So he just didn't do as well as the Attorney General as we would have hoped. But anyway, prayers, of course, to Tucker Carlson's family. Hopefully, he's reacted well to this and said, "I will not be silenced. I will still take a stand for what I believe in." That's the American way. It's the American way. what he said reminded me of Denzel Washington's speech in Remember the Titans when those racist shits threw a brick through his window. That's how you're supposed to behave. You say, I will not let this deter me from what I know I need to do. So, good man. All right, Broward County, outside of Washington, D.C., apparently is still the most corrupt county in the United States. Hatman, let the people know, or take the lead on this one. What has basically been the big problem with Broward County this time?
So, Broward County's, I guess, election supervisor? Is that her title?
I think
So. Brenda Snipes. She's been involved in some election meddling in the past since, I think, 2002. And she's still around, and she's meddling in this election too, it looks like, suddenly finding a whole bunch of new ballots, even though there's a law in place that says, you have to count all the, or at least give the number of all the provisional and early ballots, out-of-state ballots, that sort of thing, 30 days beforehand. Or something of the sort. Anything. Anyway, there's no way that you should have extra ballots in. And suddenly she's finding a whole bunch. And it's Broward County and, oh, hell. What's the other one? There's one more county that's recounting like a motherfucker.
I can't recall.
I don't recall either off the top of my head. But anyway, it's two counties that are basically recounting all their ballots. And this is to pretty much decide both the governor's race and the Senate race, which are still very, very close, but have Republicans leading by less than 1%.
Yes, which obviously wasn't part of the original count. And then all of a sudden, these ballots seem to appear from nowhere.
Palm Beach County. Thank you, Hard World Entertainment.
Yeah, and and Marco Rubio called this out immediately.
Yep.
And apparently brought it to the president's attention, which is the last thing that these counties wanted.
Yeah. So now they have a judge's order to surrender everything.
Yep.
To go ahead and just put it all in there. And Snipes is defying this order.
And she can't.
No.
She's going to be thrown in jail for doing so. Mm-hmm. As she should, because this is election tampering.
Mm-hmm. And this is how the Miami Herald has described it. Whoops! Brenda Snipes' office mixed bad provisional ballots with good ones.
You spin me right round, baby right round, like a record baby, right round, round, round. Give me a fucking break.
Mm-hmm. So, election fraud?
Yeah. Very, yes. Very yes. That's basically the best way to put it with Butter Strong Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And this isn't even to mention lawyers for Andrew Gillum and, oh, shoot, who's the Democrat from Florida in the Senate? Of course I'm going to forget the time I have to take lead on
DeSantis?
Shit. Yes. Wait. Say that one more time?
Which side are you pulling from?
I'm not pulling from a site. I'm saying who was the Democrat from Florida that was in the Senate?
Oh, I can't remember, but we're losing connection to YouTube.
Anyway, hell. Well, anyway,
just keep going.
Anyway, lawyers for both Democratic candidates objected to, I kid you not, objected to a vote from someone who is not a citizen of the United States being discarded.
As it stands, though, this is beyond disgusting. I mean, we find ourselves in a position where these people. I mean, notice how all of the votes that have been brought in have been discovered were all Democrats.
Mm-hmm. And notice that it's like 10,000 votes suddenly popping in at once, and that just so happens to be like the margin between the two candidates.
Yep.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Activates the almonds there.
yeah, it seems from what I've been seeing and reading, we will be getting a federal, state, and federal investigation. You know, if they do not turn these over, yeah, people are going to go to jail. You can't just refuse to do that on a state level, even, because these are federal representatives that are going to be affected by this, and you're shutting out the voices of other citizens by doing so, which is against what we stand for here. But it's because here's the genuine problem when it comes to, and we'll end this topic on this, is it is a genuine problem that people out there are so obsessed with politics these days that they cannot stand the idea of their side losing. And my thought is this: you lost. Next time you need to come around with a better message or something that actually fits what the people want. But you didn't. And as such, Florida will remain a red state. Or purple-ish. As it's, mostly red from what I saw on the electoral map. So, I don't know how they thought they were going to get away with this. But, as the uppercut bus driver said famously so many years ago, you're going to jail now. Ready for the next topic, Hat-Man? Alright, let's do it. Final. Jim Acosta.
Jim Acosta.
So, we have said many times on this podcast, if you want to find a woman that will love you forever, all you have to do is find a woman who looks at you like Jim Acosta looks at himself. This man is easily the biggest ego when it comes to the press these days. Easily. And I'm pretty sure his hair is fake. But that's just me. But regardless, look at me, I'm Jim Acosta. Look at me, as Andrew Clavin loves to say. But Jim Acosta made one of the biggest mistakes you could make when it comes to being a member of the press and a White House correspondent. And it is, he did not, when the president told him to sit down and be quiet, he didn't follow the words. So Jim Acosta was part of this massive press briefing that Trump did right after the midterms. And Acosta, of course, was his usual self, bringing forward incendiary questions, loaded questions, and things along those lines, and basically trying to get into a debate with President Trump as opposed to actually ask him questions. Well, it didn't turn out well. He didn't look good. The answers he got were truthful from President Trump in regards to the migrants, in regards to all these other things, and he kept trying to pin Trump on rhetoric, and Trump was basically saying, where was I incorrect? And Acosta had no answer for that.
Oh, it's Jim Acosta being Jim Acosta.
Yes. But when the president told him he was done, when somebody else needed to have the microphone, he did not listen. Keep in mind, this is the president of the United States. And Jim Acosta was one of those guys that 3-4 years ago was getting mad at us Republicans for not respecting the office of the president. And one of the White House aides, a young girl just trying to do her job, tried to take the microphone because the president said, stop. And he put his hands on her, stopping her from taking the microphone away. And eventually other people were telling, like around Jim, from what I overheard, were telling him to sit down, telling him to give the microphone back. It was very unprofessional behavior. And look, I get that Jim Acosta was deeply offended by Trump saying that the press is the enemy of the people. I get it. Because that's a statement that I don't know if I completely agree with, and on some levels. But I do think that fake news is certainly the enemy of the people. It's not friendly to them. And I don't think that the press is friendly to people at all these days. I think the press hates the blue-collar worker. I think the press hates middle America. I think that they only care about New York and California and Washington, D.C., and that's pretty apparent. They shit on people, working class people like myself and Hat-Man all the fucking time. They're certainly not friendly to John and Jane Q. Public at this point. With that said, there is no excuse for this kind of behavior. At all. And I agree. If I was running CNN, I would have been ashamed of Jim. Like, how it's like, how can you behave this way? You're making our network look bad. And nobody likes CNN right now.
No.
But
I mean, Jim Acosta, he's been doing this ever since he got into the press pool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, someone had a whole thread on Twitter that was like 17, 18, I think, incidences where he's, interrupting the president or just getting real loud and rambunctious. Never forget him trying to torpedo the goddamn ceremonial signing with North Korea by asking about whether or not Kim Jong-un is going to give up his nukes or he's going to close the prison camps.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? And then the press corps is defending him?
Yeah.
How?
That's what
How
really
do you
gets
defend
me.
this?
Well, it got worse when CNN doctored the tape of him pushing that young girl away or pushing her arm down to try to make him look innocent, and they were caught doing it.
Mm-hmm. But they doubled down and then spun it around saying, no, the White House has actually doctored the footage, which they got from InfoWars. How the fuck do you try to pull something like that?
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
It's insanity. That's what it is. I mean,
Well,
you're peddling literal fake news.
Yeah.
Literal fake news.
Exactly. And this isn't the first time I've seen the press do this. I remember when they doctored the Trayvon Martin 9/11 tape. It wasn't CNN who did it. I think it was ABC.
ABC or CBS.
Yeah, and I think to myself, it's like, what, do you think that nobody's going to get a hold of the actual recording?
Mm-hmm.
We live in the information age. This is not 1973.
No. But I think it's a matter of you have people that are going to blindly believe certain networks over others simply because of their partisanship. I mean, admittedly, people in my family believe Fox News over anyone else, regardless of what's said. Even if Fox fucks up, they're like, well, it doesn't matter because CNN and MSNBC are terrible. Which, yes, I agree, but you call out a fuck up when someone fucks up, regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't let yourself be beholden to a goddamn news network just because you agree with that network's partisan spin. Like, it doesn't work like that. The truth is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Truth doesn't have a political bias. People do. And people trying to spin this definitely fucking do.
Mm-hmm. And I will say this. We find ourselves in a position as just Americans where we look at these people who are supposed to be working to produce, information for us, and we can't trust their word. And it makes little to no sense to me at all. Mm-hmm. Little to no sense. And in the near future, because there was another press interview while Trump was going into the White House from some trip, I don't remember what it was, where he just railed against different people in the press, like Acosta and others, and called them idiots. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's had it up to here with them, and I can't blame him. I mean, you think of the way that the press treats him, calling him racist every other day, how they treat people like Sarah Huckabee Sanders and things like that. Mm-hmm. I'd be sick of it too.
Yeah.
There comes a point. And here's the thing. I understand, like I said, I try my best to empathize and understand other people's arguments and other people's positions on these sorts of things. And I understand the position that some people have in regards to Trump's rhetoric, and they're not a fan. I get it. I understand, and we discussed that a couple of weeks ago, that there is there are lines that are done with political rhetoric, and nothing is really being done to bring the temperature down. With that said, like we said with Brett Kavanaugh, you can only tolerate so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be honest. The two nastiest things that you could accuse some people of doing here in America, being a rapist or B, a racist, have both been are constantly being thrown at people on the right. Brett Kavanaugh and Donald Trump, probably the people who've gotten it the worst. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a point where you have to put your foot down and say, enough, I will not be called this. You're a goddamn liar. Mm-hmm. I am mystified by the press sometimes. I really am. Absolutely mystified as to how they think they're just going to get away with this sort of thing.
Well, it doesn't matter whether or not they're going to get away with it. It makes money. I mean, you and I have both been on the inside. You know, I was on the inside more for local news, but I still saw stuff. Like it's exploitation of certain news items because they know that it's going to get attention, shares, clicks, you know, whatever. It's going to generate revenue. I mean, for God's sake, we pushed out pretty much everything we possibly could about the Pulse Orlando shooting because it drove traffic.
Yep.
I mean, any sort of shooting, of course they're going to harp on it forever because it drives traffic. Unless, of course, it doesn't fit with a specific narrative, in which case it'll get buried, conveniently enough. Trump doing literally anything always drives traffic. Trump tweets about something. People are going to click on an article dissecting what the hell that means. Trump did something really bad, allegedly. People are going to click on that. I mean, it is basically a resurgence of yellow journalism.
Yeah, it really is. It is. It's selling outrage as a product.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, notice the line that keeps getting repeated, and was actually even repeated by CNN PR in their response to this. It's a threat to our democracy.
Yeah,
it's
the Young
an attack
Turks
on
were,
our democracy.
The Young Turks were echoing the same line. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
To quote Jake, that's bullshit!
Yeah. Fucking, how is calling a journalist an absolute disrespectful imbecile an attack on democracy?
Yeah, it's a question of his character.
Exactly.
What little he has. And there are dozens of people within that press pool that are still there. Jim Acosta did get his hard pass revoked, meaning he does not have access to the White House constantly, which he shouldn't after that. He's got to learn to behave.
No. He should have had it revoked a long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a certain degree of decorum and respect among the press corps. Like, there's an expectation for your behavior, and if you fuck that up, you're out.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't Obama dismiss people from the press corps, too?
He
Wasn't
did.
it like Fox News people?
He did. So this isn't the first time this has happened.
Yeah, so...
And I remember he kicked out somebody who was in the press corps who was actively booing something he said. And he just motioned for them to be kicked out, and then he was removed. And it wasn't a threat to democracy then either.
No.
Because that guy should have behaved better.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is the problem, I think, with the press in general. I mean, the press is not about information. You know, there's this old line from Mass Effect 2. You know, you have one job, information. If I can't trust what you're giving me, then what good are you? And that's my line towards the press constantly. If you can't give me the information I'm looking for, why are you here? What are you doing? Are you doing anything worthwhile? You know, I remember when we were covering Gamergate years ago, when a member of Rock Paper Shotgun had an interview with Peter Molyneux that Molyneux walked out on. The first question they asked was, "Are you a pathological liar?" And I'm like, what the fuck? What kind of question is that? Like, that's not press at that point. You're not a member of the press. You're a prick. You're just you're an internet troll.
Yeah.
You're not somebody worth taking seriously. And that's my thing with Jim Acosta. I don't think he should be taken seriously at this point. He is a troll.
Yeah. Even if you
he's
hate
there
the
to stir
person,
shit up.
Even if you hate the person, don't be an asshole towards them. I mean, it's like, let's go back to Tucker Carlson. Yeah, he dunks on lefties that he has on his show, but he gives them the time to fucking speak their mind.
Yeah.
He lets them talk. He doesn't just rip the fuck into them right away and fucking act all high and mighty over them. Some people, of course, are probably going to disagree, but no, I don't see it. He gives them a place and time to speak. He's got more respect for the people that he is dunking on than Jim Acosta has for the President of the United States. And yet, he's the one that people call a racist, sexist, fascist, and Acosta is the one that gets defended by the press all over.
It's unbelievable. It really
It's
is.
fucked.
It's one thing I find really just interesting about the tone and candor these days is like people actually think that, you know, some people are in the press are just supposed to get these things, are supposed to, you know, like they're entitled to White House coverage or things like that. That's another thing that gets me. It's like, you're not entitled to this. You know, we have freedom of association here. And if they don't want to associate with you, that's the end of it. That's the end of the discussion. So. All right. I think we've covered everything we planned on covering today, and we're done a little early. I blame the internet shenanigans for that.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive right into the Q&A. So, what do we have?
There was one on Twitter.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do we have on the Twitter?
Dank Horse Elric. A lot of the midterm races seemed a bit too close for comfort, combined with the shenanigans going on in Arizona and Florida. Oh, that's right, Arizona is fucked up too.
Yep.
Do you think this bodes ill for 2020?
Not necessarily. I think that if anything, this showed that the Democrats don't have as much momentum as they thought they did. We were supposed to lose everything, and we didn't. Now we lost the House. Now, but it's very close. The vote, did the Democrats even have 200 seats? Or was the count like 180, 190 something?
I think, yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, so it's a very close number. And some of those voters that are in red states are going to be pressured to vote alongside any conservative bill that might come into the House. You know, Nancy Pelosi, if she does end up getting voted speaker, which it looks like will probably happen, but will be pressured to go along with it. So there is a possibility we could get some law put through, maybe. I doubt it, but it's a possibility. I'm just not gonna hedge my bets on it. Anyway, I don't think that it bodes well, because if Nancy Pelosi spends all of her time subpoenaing people on the right and spends all of her time doing all these other things, plus the things in Broward County, people are going to look at this and go like, I don't want to vote for this party anymore. They're trying to tamper with the election. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. They're trying to do all these terrible things. They're not going to trust them. So I think 2020 is going to go in the right's favor as of right now, if things are going to go the way that they could predictably go. But that's just an early prediction on my part. Hey, man, what do you think?
Sorry, I muted my mic there for a second so I could type something. I think honestly, like, yeah, 2020 is going to be a bit of a nail biter, but I'm fairly certain that it was already going to be, regardless of how the midterms ended up. Yeah, we didn't get a blue wave, and as we said on the show Tuesday, that this is basically people voting their conscience more than anything. It's not voting a specific way to support or oppose the president, which is what I predicted that would happen. And apparently, no, it absolutely was not. Because if it was, yeah, the blue wave probably would have fucking happened.
Yeah.
But no, I think what's coming in 2020 mostly depends on who the Democrats choose to run for president. Because a good candidate can have a whole bunch of others in that party ride their coattails into office, which is what we saw in 2008 with Obama, and what we partially saw with Trump in 2016, because people can just vote one direction and there you go. You've just carried a whole bunch of others into office.
Yeah.
If the Democrats choose a weak candidate, then it's not going to go well for them. If they choose a very strong candidate that actually wins the presidency, yeah, you could see that blue wave. That could be the blue wave. Honestly, though, I think now Republicans are more energized than before, because now the stakes are a little bit higher for them. It's no longer we could have a Nancy Pelosi speakership. It's Nancy Pelosi is probably going to be speaker as soon as this new Congress is sworn in, and she's already talking about all the shit that she wants to get done, which is basically undoing Republican gains.
Yes, which probably won't go anywhere. But regardless,
probably not. But it still creates gridlock.
Of course, but that's what the system's built for. We expect it.
Right.
So, all right, let's get to some Discord stuff real fast. Holy Ninja Toe wants to know, what theological issue would you like to have time to study? I've kind of studied most, if not all of them, over the last 10 years. So for me, it's just about having the discussions about them. The one that I like talking about more than anything is about the direction of the church itself. But that's more of an intersection between church and culture, and more so than a theological issue. So, though there would be inevitably be theology discussed within it.
I don't really know if I have an answer for that question, to be perfectly honest.
No worries. And then Talon Silverbeard wanted to know for the political podcast, so the midterm things, I still don't get it. Has anything really changed? Twitter lefties seem to be claiming victory, and now there's talk of fraud voting by Azura. What is going on? Well, we already talked about the voter fraud. Of course, they're going to say that getting the House is a win for him, because it is a win for them. But basically, just what it means is that we're going to be in a legal gridlock for about 2 years, because laws have to go through the House and the Senate. There might be more of a reliance on the Supreme Court and more of a reliance on the executive order from the president to get things done that need to be done.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, because that's exactly what criticized Obama for.
Yeah, so it's basically a game of political chess at this point. That's basically what I would say to expect. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the... go ahead.
I did see something interesting, though. Mika Brzezinski actually tried to say, it's a blue wave. We had a blue wave because the Democrats won the popular vote by 5% or something.
There is no popular vote when it comes to Senate races.
No, there's no fucking popular vote. But because, more people were voting for Democrats on average, then that was a blue wave. Yeah, sure, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah. All right. And somebody asked about it. I thought about that spin, and we just gave it. So, let's see from the chat here. Oh, this is one I definitely want to answer because it's philosophical. Then, Hatman, I'll let you pick the rest of the questions. Okay. Where do we stand on Plato's Republic? Edgy satire or good working model for government? Well,
solid.
No, I would not agree.
Really?
Not on the governmental issues. I thought that Plato was basically saying, or he wasn't talking about a republic, he was talking about a fascist state with absolute information control and things like that. It's actually pretty horrifying when you read through it. Now, it's important to discuss. It was an important part of political philosophy, but I don't agree with a single word in the actual part where a republic is discussed and how he said that they would, with those two brothers, how they would put things together. That is not a good idea. However, the opening of the book on justice, fucking brilliant. And we actually went over the Republic in my philosophy class in college. And that was basically the kind of the consensus that was in the class. It's like, yeah, what he's proposing a government would act like when it comes to the soldiers, when it comes to the ins and outs of it, not a good thing. But his explanation of justice is the best secular argument in regards to the purpose of justice that I've ever seen. And it has stood the test of time. Socrates was not as smart as Aristotle, his teacher. Aristotle, I'm more Aristotelian than I am Socratian when it comes to
so you got more
governmental philosophy.
with the 5 regimes than anything else in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I guess I can sort of see that.
like, I think that if you're going to read about governmental ethics and things like that, go with Aristotle. Nicomachean Ethics is a brilliant book, and that would probably be one of the best books I've ever read. Yeah, like Hardboiled Entertainment says, the closest the world has had to Plato's Republic was Mandarin China. So, oh goodness. All right, Hatman, pick us up some new ones.
All right, let's find some things. Do you think, from Crystal Wing, do you think Antifa will one day take their bullshit too far and kill someone? And do you think
Yes.
people will wake up and see them for what they are when they do?
Yes.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes. Because at that point, you won't have a choice. You will have to finally confront them. Because then it will be way the fuck out there that, oh yeah, it turns out the entire time they were actually looking for a violent overthrow. I don't understand why people don't get that now, but whatever.
It's going to happen. It's a sad inevitability. They're a violent group. They're terrorists. They're going to kill someone.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
I think that if they had broken down the door of Tucker Carlson's home, they would have killed his wife.
Or at least assaulted her. I don't know if they would have killed her, but they would have at least assaulted her. Follow-up, Chaos Sonic 1 asks, do you think that Antifa might be treated as the KKK is now, but in the future?
I don't know about that.
I don't think so, if only because we don't treat communists, or specifically Russian communists, the same way we do Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay, Koopa's Revenge. This is funny. Are Antifa stupid enough to unironically burn crosses to protest Christian white male colonialism on the lawn of a black conservative?
I don't think they're that dumb, no.
No, I don't think they're that colorblind, dare I say it. Hardworld Entertainment. So the left defends Broward County because Trump suppressed the votes. They defend Acosta. So if this is the left now, how the hell did we lose the House? Trump derangement syndrome.
Pretty much.
Nick White, has there been any news of the migrant caravan? Like, weren't some lefties banking on getting them to vote somehow?
I don't know about all that, but they're still on the way here. They're hundreds of miles out.
They're on the way, and I believe Trump has actually suspended anyone seeking asylum unless you're at a specific point of entry.
Yes.
Or port of entry.
Yes.
So all that nonsense is going to be stopped, and of course he sent like something like 5,000 troops to the border. So, yeah. All right. Matchstick. Who do you think would replace the Dems if they go the way of the Whig Party?
We talked about this last week, actually. Our bet would be on them becoming the Democratic Socialist Party.
Yeah, I pretty
or
much
the Progressive Party.
I think it's inevitable that they become the DSA at this point. It's a matter of time, really. You'll have the moderates clinging to the Democratic Party, and you'll have the progressives going to the DSA, and that'll mostly be like your millennial voting bloc.
Pretty much. Though, as we sort of saw with the polls and the elections, is that progressivism is not the way forward for them, but they refuse to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact of the matter is that the only way that the Democrats are going to win the 2020 election, or even have a hope of winning it against Donald Trump, would be if they nominated Joe Biden.
Yeah, certainly seems that way.
Because Joe is much more liked than Hillary is. First and foremost, he's got a better. Even though Joe Biden's a terrible fucking human being, but he and I would hope that Trump would hammer him on some of the shit he said. Like saying that Republicans were going to put black people back in chains.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
and I would authoring the assault weapons ban,
and then of course the way he treated Clarence Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
when it came to his confirmation. Like, I would, if I were Donald Trump, I would fucking lay into him every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Joe Biden probably won't run, or he probably wouldn't win the nomination. I'm expecting it's probably going to be Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris.
I think it's going to be Kamala Harris. I don't think Elizabeth Warren really wants to run for president. She might pick up VP, but I don't know if she really wants to run for president. Kamala Harris obviously wants it. Cory Booker
Too. I would expect that if Harris is the nominee, Cory Booker would probably be the VP nominee.
Quite possibly. Let's see. I'm
talking about those who replace the Democrats in the big two-party system, because I don't see the Democratic Socialists be able to get much support. Well, where would the old Democrats go? That would be the logical place. It's it's like if you look back when the Whig Party folded, the Republican Party was basically mostly filled with people who were in the Whig Party.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a different purpose. They had a different goal. They had a different mission, and that was civil rights.
Yeah.
It's why the Republican Party has always been about, constitutionalism and about about rights.
Yeah.
The right to life, liberty, and property. It is a Lockean way of looking at the world, and it has served us very well. We've had some hiccups, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the Democrats being replaced by, if we're going by currently like established major minor parties, the Libertarians or the Green Party, for example.
Yeah,
Green would come closest, but I don't think that would really be it. I think there is a certain attraction among millennials, which are set to become the largest voting bloc, to the ideals of socialism, specifically the democratic socialists. Mostly in part because of the greater media attention that they've been getting since the election of Trump and since Ocasio-Cortez's win in New York.
Dumbest politician ever.
Yeah.
She's so stupid, it's hilarious.
Who would have thought Bernie Sanders could actually be out fucking done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Incredible.
But no, I think that's basically what's going to end up happening. Your more moderate, middle of the ground Democrats are still going to cling to that. They really won't be able to find a party that's home to them, because they won't go to the Republicans more out of spite.
Yeah.
And they can't go to Libertarians because Libertarians are a little too right wing for them.
Yep.
So they're basically just caught between a rock and a fucking hard place.
Mm-hmm. Final question before we close out the podcast for today. Hardboiled Entertainment says, so we secured our hold on the Senate. We can confirm appointments and ratify treaties. I say focus on that, stuff the courts. What do you say, Well, that's the thing. The Republican Party right now, we don't really have a... admittedly, we do not have a legal direction. We don't. We have a judicial direction. We have a judicial narrative. And the importance of, constitutionalism. Which is not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. So yes, that's probably what's going to end up happening. Is we're going to stuff the courts with constitutional originalists, like should happen always. So that way we can get back to basics when it comes to that. And I'm hoping that once 2020 comes around, if we win everything again, then we will we'll push a legal direction. We'll finish clearing out Obamacare, and then go from there. Because that really and of course build the wall. That's going to be the big thing with Trump, that he's going to hammer the left on when it comes to the House, is people want the wall. You will not let us build the wall. Were I Donald Trump, though, what I would do is this, is I would pull an FDR. I would like with the war bonds, I would say, all right, here's what we'll do. He'll say, Cocaine Mitch puts forward a bill in the Senate to build the wall. Goes through 50, how many votes do we have, 54?
Currently the tally is 51. If we lose both Arizona and Florida, we will have 51. If we win both of them, then it's 53.
Let's run on the assumption we're going to get 53 then. I would say we would probably have about, I get 53 votes, and then, we would just use the nuclear option to push it through. Mm-hmm. And then that goes to the House. They, of course, shoot it down. And Trump would say, all right, well, they're not going to do it. If you want to, you can donate to the government, which you can do, and you can buy these things called Patriot bricks. And these will be made to build the wall. And then it will get funded that way through private enterprise. No, let's be honest. I know it sounds silly, but hear me out.
Patriot bricks. I'm sorry. The name Patriot bricks is incredible, and I love it, and I want 37.
But that's the thing. Like $5 a brick, you know, people would do it. People would do it. You know,
donate to the channel. We will have our own section of the fucking wall.
That would be amazing.
We will stream live from our section of the wall.
But yeah, if you think about it, like people would do it.
Yes.
People would do it.
I
would
totally
too.
do it.
Be like, it's wonderful. Give you 10. You know, it's
literally your tax dollars at work.
and you could have little things like, you know, if you get this brick, you know, you could have a message engraved on the brick, provided it's not terrible. And I would buy 100 of them, and they would all say Deus Volt. You know. So.
Oh my god.
Well, no. Some would say Deus Volt. At least one would say millions will die. So. And that one wouldn't make it through. But yeah, that's what I would do. So, all right. For those of you who are in the chat right now, please go ahead and submit your questions for the overflow. I'm gonna leave this particular video unlisted for now, because I'm gonna have to re-edit the podcast. But at least Brain can go back in and pick up the questions. So go ahead and tag us in them so that he can go ahead and grab it. But excuse me. But we will be returning here shortly to do the entertainment podcast. We'll be talking music. We'll be talking Ethan Van Sciver leaving Comicsgate and more. So stick around. We'll see you then. But until that point in time, my name is Micah Curtis.
I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hat Man.
See you soon. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.